you are. So Denise Vitola, and she is the VP of Brand Integration, PR, Social, and Influencer for Consumer Health at Bayer. So Denise, I will let you, I just have to at least greet you. Hello. I know we're trying to, you're a little bit time constrained, but at the same point, I love seeing you again. So how are you?
I'm great, Lisa, and it's good seeing you too. And believe me, it got very cold in South Carolina where I am. It's like in the 50s. So I made a big mistake in not coming to Santa Barbara, but I came down with a little bit of a cold and under the weather. So nobody wants to be around me. So we can definitely do it in this format. And I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have you. So with that said, I will let you take it away.
Okay, and I am going to take it away. I am going to share my screen. It's happening, trust me. And let me share this in big person view. So, as said, I'm here to talk about Midol, but the big takeaway really that I hope everybody gets from this is, taking a brand that's been around for a very long time, and we all get those brands handed to us a lot of times and say, what are we going to do with this and how are we going to make it relevant, keep it relevant, and, engage new consumers. And, we're getting new consumers into our, purchase phase all the time. The product is for people when they start menstruating. So we have to appeal to young girls. Where did we start? So some people, I can't see the audience, but I'm going to assume that some people in the audience are probably around my age and can remember this packaging. So this is what we looked like, and sure, nothing wrong with it. I would argue that why blue, but nonetheless, this is where we were. And this is where we are today. So super excited to share this packaging. It's been around for over a year now, but we've got our bright pink. It really pops at shelf. We also brought in purples and teals because we have different line extensions that are a complete line, but we also have bloat and we have for back pain and all the fun things that, those menstruating have to deal with on a month-to-month basis. So, and speaking about that, surrounding this launch, what we really wanted to do is take a look at those audience I'm talking to you about and say, okay, well, while we're giving our brand a facelift, let's definitely take a look and say, okay, what's going on that we need to appeal to menstruators in a different way? And that's really, we took the chance and the opportunity to take a look at all of these objectives that we wanted to achieve. So, like all of us, what we're trying to do is drive relevance amongst our consumers. It's a big priority. But we really wanted to, do that in a very relevant way, by being part of a cultural narrative. So we spent a long time, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time there. And then, this whole, as Lisa said in my title, I have PR, I have social, and I have digital. So I always joke to people and I'm like, I'm half of the marketing mix. And then, we bring the rest of the folks to really make something holistic. And this is a holistic campaign. So we do have the earned portion of this, and I will show you the results at the end. And then, it was important for us to grow our online community. So with the repackaging, we launched our social media channels. And it became a place for us to engage and have a conversation with our consumer because that's where they're at. But I'll also add, this is a smaller one of Bayer's brands. So we really try to be scrappy. And, as a lot of you probably know, the digital space is a place for us to really get scrappy in both media buying, earned, and owned. So how did we find this ownable space? There's a lot of menstruation products out there. There's a lot of things going on. And, it's not really a topic that we all enjoy talking about. So if I was there, I'd say, raise your hand if you really like talking about Aunt Flo when she comes, or Shark Week is on deck and you're just ready to jump ship. So we saw what's going on culturally and we said, 80% of women agree that women apologize too much. That's interesting. We know that kind of. And, then we asked, have you ever apologized for symptom related to your period? Yes, I absolutely have. And then, you take a look and 58% of women have felt a sense of embarrassment simply because you're on your period. How many of us, husbands too, but how many of us go to buy the product and we're kind of or we're discreetly tucking our stuff in our pockets and walking to the bathroom, just hold it out there, But these are things that we were hearing and, stores knew it anyway. But we also knew from a company perspective, from a brand perspective, that 59% of those surveyed sarcastically tell people, take a Midol. So like, oh, you must be on your period. Take a Midol. So, and this was a very negative connotation that was rising to the top. So, put that all together in our 4Cs, and as we're looking at this landscape and how do we put this all together, women are conditioned to be more apologetic than men. I'll add another keynote there that whilst they're doing that, once you start menstruating, you apologize more. So, wow, because I again, like, you're probably like, yes, because of course, when I'm on my period, I'm like 10 times more emotional. So, it's kind of, you can see that category, periods symptoms are associated with weakness. It's just something that keeps rising out, we've seen that. And then women tend to worry about the embarrassment, on top of the pain and the symptoms and all the stuff we have to deal with every month, then you start to worry. And then you start to get like, emotional about the whole thing. And then, when Midol started to be mentioned, we started seeing it, this catchphrase for being angry or moody. We said, this is what we need to do. We saw that periods were really society's excuse to deflect emotion and assertive behavior, which is really dismissing the natural hormonal cycle and compels women to constantly apologize to themselves. So I kind of say, I menstruate. That means I'm powerful, makes me roar. Not everybody can do this. I have a superpower. But turning that really into a platform is what we needed to do. So our purpose, and we still stand true to this, the stuff is still activating today, get women to stop apologizing, period. So I'm going to play a video for everyone now, and it's about a minute. I'll do a dance back here while you're all watching it. And to me, it's quite powerful. And I hope you enjoy it as much as the rest of us have. So here we go, and I hope it's working.
Sorry, yeah, sorry is my default.
I'm sorry I'm eating so much, but I'm gonna get my period.
I cry fairly easily, and I'm always like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're being a mad black woman, and I just have to apologize.
I would apologize because we couldn't have sex while I was on my period.
Feeling like I gotta apologize about this body and what it does.
As a woman, being polite is the most important thing, and saying sorry is part of being polite.
Oh, I am so sorry. This is not making any sense.
You just apologized to me.
Oh. See?
If I don't stop, my daughter and future generations aren't going to stop apologizing.
Not everyone deserves an apology from me.
Be really nice to yourself.
Be authentically you.
It's normal and healthy and powerful.
I'm on my period, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
Join Midol to stop the period apology.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So we have this piece of content. We find these powerful menstruators to have conversations with us. And then we turn this entire thing into a campaign that we roll out holistically. That piece of content was what I call our hero piece. So while we have the platform at the center, no apologizing, period. And I'll get into these things more specifically, but I do want to spend a minute here because I think, and having done the things that I've done throughout my career, I grew up in PR and moved into digital and have done all these things, and I've worked in both the interagency team process whilst now I'm at Bayer. I've spent a large portion of my career in the agency side. So I'm a huge advocate for holistic campaigns because when you put the greater parts together, it is just, maximized tenfold. So it really importantly, what I say to marketers all the time is bring all your pieces together as best as you can, because what you spend is going to be amplified that much more. And this is really what we did here. So at the top, you saw that eye-catching hero video, right? But, we had a lot of content because we spent the day with these people and we've asked a lot of questions. So we had 6 seconds, we had 30 seconds, we had 15s, and we used them in both organic and paid across the internet. which means TikTok and YouTube, Instagram. We had a great paid Pinterest program, and we'd use various forms of the asset. And we also took the asset and we would have exclusive cuts that we can share with earned media as well. So take it over to the right. Now, right there is an invitation that we sent to key media outlets and invited them to a closed group conversation with our key panelists. And we had Professor Maja, who wrote a book on this very topic, Olivia Culpa, our celebrity partner, Mina Harris, Kamala Harris's niece, and she stands on the platform of like women, speaking out, and having a strong voice. And then of course, our gynecologist who can, sort of talk to really the facts about menstruation and all of that. It was an exclusive event, invite only. And it was, like I said, an open conversation about the period apology and how that affects everyone. So we had that asset as well. And then, something that at Bayer we've spent a ton of time on is perfecting our influencer strategies. And influencers were a very important part of this. Not only the influencers that spoke on our panel, but those influencers, those people that we, tend to think that we're friends with on social media. And we asked them to help us share this powerful message. And we had some really great content. So for example, on TikTok, there's fantastic transition videos. People sneeze and, they're like dressed in a different outfit and all that fun stuff. But here we're around apologies. So, in the first film, you see someone saying, sorry, I had to do this. Sorry, I had to do that. And then for the transition, our menstruators took our Midol box and sort of slammed it down without breaking things, of course, slammed it down. All the apologies crumbled. And then they started to talk about the No Apologies Period campaign. Some of them would link to video. They had the freedom, as you should as an influencer, to put your own style and brand voice on things. Now, when the influencers, this was sort of a cascade of events that was happening. And when the influencers took this message and started to carry it forward for us, we really started to see that viral effect take place. And it really was sparking. And we began to fan the flames. We had a central hub where people could go for additional content that was on Midol.com, didn't cost us a fortune to create, it already exists. And then we also worked with like-minded partners. For this bit I have here is Elite Daily, where they created content based on our platform and pushed it out to their audience as well. And then we would co-create together. They would use our content, we would use theirs, and it was just an additional way that we had, again, like I said, fanning the flames. And then lastly, what you see on the left, and if you don't follow Midol today, I encourage you to, especially if something like this is, something you appreciate and like that kind of entertainment, because that's what we do on our Midol social pages. And that is some of the content that was created specific to this campaign, where we were pushing forth the message, putting out the videos. And I'm excited as I get into more of this about how that really resulted in millions and millions of views and impressions. We had paid digital support on all of our assets. I don't have all the paid numbers in this presentation, but anyone can contact me and we can chat this forever. I'm going to keep going because, there are time constraints here. So, as I said, fan the flames, right? So we had that event that happened with our key spokespeople that we partnered up with. We still have partnerships with them today. And as we continue this into next year, we will have partnerships with them as well. So as they're talking, you can kind of see them pushing out stuff, people grabbing onto that and pushing it out. And then our last pillar there is none of those people we paid and we didn't ask them to do anything. And there's quite influential people on that very right-hand side that began to put our conversation in, everyday vernacular. So thumb stopping content I talked about. What I am so proud of the team for is we doubled our followers in 24 hours. Now, anyone that knows anything about digital, our engagement rate was 37%. like, I happen to do some influencer stuff on the side for my own social media. And like, I'm giddy when I'm at like 1% engagement rate, 37. I was on the floor, like so giddy. And then we launched our TikTok channel, and, followers at launch were over 6,000 followers, which is really super cool. I talked about the influencers. I can't say enough. They were such an important partner in this program. They too, helped increase clicks through our video. So those clicks are associated with our video content that you saw when they shared it. We had over 500,000 engagements with them. And then what we saw is an 18 increase in awareness, which was awareness amongst Midol and then the campaign. Excuse me. So I mentioned having partners like Elite Daily. Those are key partnerships to us. Like, as we think of like different platforms that we want to exist on and be on, we look for like-minded partners because, we really want to bring as many people into this conversation and, be able to engage with our audiences where they are, not just with paid media, but think of it like as advertorial, if you will. So we had Nylon, Elite Daily, and Bustle, which also helped to increase our clicks, our overall video views, and all of those fun things that were happening. I talked about earned media was a huge important part of this as well. We had our KPIs at the beginning of this was like 500 million impressions. Obviously, we exceeded that. We're over 700 million impressions today. We still have things that are rolling in, 90% message pull through, thumbs up to that. And then, 6 times more product coverage was during the campaign. So, we don't get a ton of product coverage. Not everybody's going to talk about this product all the time. But when the campaign was happening, we were able to pull in the product, which is not a priority, right? So anybody that sits in the audience and does purpose-related programming and such, you may be like, oh, like that's unheard. It's not for a product. That's not what it's for. But that just naturally happens. So I'm going to take a breath, but I'm going to show you the results at a glance because I kind of walked you through that. But, I like to put all the numbers on the page to take a look at, what happened when we put all of the right partners and pieces together so that we were able to overachieve, I'll say, what we set out to do. So, this is like obviously lined up through what I just went through. So earned media, organic social. I did put some of the paid stuff in here, but that tends to roll in a little bit later. Our partnerships and everything compiled and rolling up into one. I will say what here are the takeaway, because I can sit here and read you numbers, who cares, right? You can see them. I don't have to read them to you. But what I will say is we were pleasantly surprised that in each of these pillars, we exceeded our benchmarks. And then where there was like industry benchmarks, if you will, so we like sort of look at, CPG, and we'll look at OTC as well, where we talk about, what is the benchmark for a click-through rate, what is the engagement rate benchmark, and things like that. And I will just like, here engagement rate, as I had mentioned, on Instagram posts, 37%, which is usually like we would get for our category somewhere in the 1 to 2% engagement. And then when you take a look at the click-through rate benchmark that we deal with in our category, we were able to exceed that as well, because it's normally a 0.5%. So, we feel, putting all these pieces together, it was hugely successful for us. We're not walking away from it. We're investing more next year. But really why it worked for us is, I spent time in the beginning walking you through that compelling insight. Identify what that human truth is, like what is really happening in the world that, is really going to make sense to have a conversation and peel back the layers of the onion and, absolutely be able to deliver things that make sense to the people that are buying your product. So professional, if you will, real people across demographics and backgrounds, professional with compelling storytelling. So let me just unwrap that a little bit of what I mean. So you saw our menstruators in the videos. So, sometimes, they are real people, right? But you do have to do a casting call because, sometimes real people just don't translate into content. So, we did do a casting call there. We found our real people with real stories, but it was very important to us to make sure we had a good representation in both, the way people look, who they are and all that, but in the stories that they had to tell. So you saw, we had someone was very young who just, was early on in the sort of stages of menstruation. And then we had a mom who was now dealing with a young daughter who was about to menstruate. So there were interesting stories to tell. This lightning bolt launch moment was really, key to our success. So we launched the video in a very strategic way. And then, as I said, we fanned the flames along the way. And we also had a variety of content. So no one got the same kind of content. We had cut downs, we had partner content. And this way we were able to continue to tell the story, and it wasn't the same story over and over again. Remember, we had bits and pieces from each of our professional real people that we could continue to roll out. So it went on for months and months. And then, having KOLs who are inherently connected to the story. So I talked about Professor Maja. She wrote a book that was related to this topic. Mina Harris, if you look her up, you're gonna be like, oh my God, she talks about this all the time. Right. So, it wasn't like we were hiring people and saying like, hey, get interested in this because it's important. No, they were already interested in it. And the reason why we used Olivia Culpa as our celebrity partner is because she had reached out to us in the past on our Midol channel, and we had seen she was already putting on her social media that she was a Midol user and suffered from cramps, and thank God for Midol. So, we didn't go out and say, okay, we need to find like a bigger name or this or that. We said Olivia is there for us and she believes in us, and that's who we're going to partner on this. And she was a highly mediable spokesperson. She's a little media darling that people really like talking to, and it paid big dividends for us. Lastly, what I will say, and so important because you'll be like, oh, the PR girl, earn media. Well, as I said, I did start my career in PR and then, sort of escalated into digital media and then paid as part of that. I will say, if you want to do this right and you want those flames to really rise high, don't think for a second when you look at Dove Real Beauty or you look at Always Like a Girl that that's just like earned and happening. There's a lot of paid funding that goes behind these programs. And, if you can help yourself, why wouldn't you? And that's exactly what that does, because also with paid media, you can target the right kind of people very specifically, where with earned media, we know who's watching the Today Show, we know who's on Bustle, but when you're really paying to place something, you know who you're really reaching out to. So all of those pieces put together, I really hope that you enjoyed this case study. I hope it moves you enough, to come check out more from Midol. But that's what I have today, and look out for year 2 of No Apologies, period. And I think, let me check my watch, there's a few minutes for questions if you'd like to ask me any.